All right, you ready? I dug up 10 of the messed up Reddit confessions on the internet for you. You know what to do. Like, sub, and let's go. I found a journal in my Airbnb rental. It described my stay before I arrived. Sometimes the escape you plan becomes the trap you never saw coming. I'm, 28 female, posting this because I need people to understand what happened and maybe warn others. 3 weeks ago, I left my ex. It wasn't a clean break, it was messy and terrifying, and I won't get into details here, but I needed to disappear for a while. My best friend Jenna helped me find this Airbnb rental in a quiet beach town about 4 hours from home. Actually, she didn't find it. A woman from an online domestic violence support group I joined recommended it. Said it was peaceful, affordable, perfect for healing. The cottage looked exactly like the photos. Charming, right on the water, with a little deck facing the ocean. I arrived 3 days ago. I'm a freelance graphic designer, so I can work from anywhere, and this felt like the fresh start I needed. On my first night here, I was unpacking in the bedroom when I noticed a closet door I hadn't opened yet. It had one of those old-fashioned keyholes, and when I tried the handle, it was locked. I almost left it alone, but something made me run my hand along the top of the door frame. Found a key sitting there. Inside the closet was a suitcase. Women's clothes, neatly folded. And here's where it got weird. They were exactly my size. Like, down to the shoe size. I told myself maybe the previous guest forgot them. Maybe the host hadn't cleaned out the closet yet. But underneath the clothes, I found a leather journal. The dates made no sense. The journal had entries dated weeks into the future. Next month. Entries that described things I've been doing here. My exact morning routine. How I make coffee on the deck at sunrise. What mug I use. My afternoon walks on the beach. The specific path I take. Even the meals I've ordered from the local cafe down the street, written out with the exact items I chose. Things I've only been doing for 3 days. There's no way this is coincidence. No way someone guessed I'd order the avocado toast with extra tomatoes, or that I'd take my laptop to the deck every morning at 6:47 a.m., or that I'd walk barefoot along the tide line collecting shells. These are specific, personal details about my behavior here, written before I arrived. I'm sitting here with this journal open, and I don't know what to do. Every entry is written in neat handwriting, dated precisely, describing my days here like someone's been watching me through a window. But I've checked every window. I've walked the perimeter of this cottage. There's no one out there. How did someone write about my future before I lived it? The deeper she read, the less the world made sense. I kept reading. I couldn't stop. The entries don't just describe what I do here. They describe my work, my actual freelance projects. There's an entry dated 2 weeks from now that mentions me finishing the logo redesign for the Hartman Bakery account. That's a real client. I haven't told anyone here about my work, haven't mentioned client names out loud. How would someone know that? There's another entry about my phone calls with Jenna. It describes our conversation from yesterday, how she asked if I was eating enough, how I told her the ocean helps me sleep better, how we talked about whether I should tell my mom where I am. Those exact topics written before the call happened. And then there's this entry that made my blood run cold. She'll think about leaving tomorrow. The anxiety will spike when she hears a car door slam in the distance, and she'll convince herself he found her. But she'll stay. The rental is peaceful, and she needs this. I thought that exact thing yesterday, word for word. I heard a car door, my heart stopped. I packed my bag, then I unpacked it an hour later because I told myself I was being paranoid, that this place was helping me heal. How did someone write my thoughts before I thought them? There were more impossible things in those pages. I tried rationalizing it. Maybe it's all vague enough to apply to anyone. Maybe I'm pattern matching, seeing connections that aren't there. But then I went back through the entries and found things that can't be explained away. My sleep schedule. The journal says I go to bed at 11:23 p.m. and wake up at 3:47 a.m. when the anxiety hits, then fall back asleep around 5:12 a.m. I checked my phone. That's exactly what I've been doing, down to the minute. My breakfast. Greek yogurt with blueberries and granola, same bowl every morning, eaten on the deck while checking emails. The journal has it written out like a recipe. My Spotify playlist, the one I made specifically for this trip, the one I titled Beach Reset and haven't shared with anyone. The journal mentions me listening to it during afternoon walks, even lists 3 songs I play on repeat. I tore this cottage apart looking for cameras, checked every smoke detector, every electrical outlet, every corner of every room. Nothing. I've checked the locks on the doors and windows so many times I've lost count. They're always secure. But I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. Every creak makes me freeze. Every shadow outside the window makes my heart race. Someone knows things they shouldn't know. Someone has been watching me in ways I can't detect. The woman who sent her there had never existed at all. I decided to reach out to the woman from the support group who recommended this place. Maybe she could explain something about the rental, about the locked closet. I opened my messaging app. All our conversations were gone. Every single message thread with her, completely deleted, like they'd never existed. I went to the support group forum and searched for her profile. It wasn't there. I tried searching by username, by the post she'd made, by anything I could remember. Nothing. The account didn't exist. It was like she'd been wiped from the entire platform. This woman had talked to me for weeks. She'd shared her own story of leaving an abusive partner. She'd been kind and supportive and had suggested this exact rental as a safe place to heal. And now there was no trace of her anywhere. The journal had been waiting for her to look deeper. I went back to the journal, hands shaking. The entries I'd already read were disturbing enough, but I kept flipping forward. They got worse. There's an entry describing my nightmares, the recurring one where I'm drowning, where the water fills my lungs and I can't scream. Another about my ex finding me, breaking down the door. Things I dream about at 3:17 a.m. when I wake up gasping. The journal even notes what I mumble in my sleep, fragmented words about being sorry, about needing to leave. How could anyone know what I dream, what I say when I'm unconscious? Then I found the entry about my mom. It describes the phone call I had with her 2 nights ago. Not just that we talked, but what she said to me. How she told me I was overreacting about my ex, how I always make things dramatic, how I should just come home and work it out. The journal quotes her exact words. I never told anyone what my mom said on that call. I was too ashamed. But it's written here, dated before the call happened. I'm packing my bag right now. I'm leaving at dawn. I have every light in this cottage turned on, and I'm sitting on the couch with my car keys in my hand. I'm too terrified to sleep. Every sound outside makes my heart stop. This is beyond creepy. The fact that someone was documenting your routine before you even got there. Did you check if there were cameras in the rental? This reads like someone was grooming you for something worse. Support groups are prime hunting grounds for predators looking for vulnerable targets. Did anyone else from that group recommend getaway locations? The photos corrupting is suspicious. If someone was running surveillance software on your phone remotely, it could cause battery drain and file corruption. Did you notice any unusual apps or permissions? I didn't think to check at the time. I was too freaked out. But you're right about the battery. My phone would be at 90% and then just die within an hour. I thought it was the cold weather affecting it, but now the police still have it as evidence. They said they're doing a forensic analysis. Dawn came, but escape didn't. They found my journal in the basement too. I tried to leave at sunrise like I planned. Walked out to my car in the cold pre-dawn light, bag over my shoulder, ready to drive until I hit a city with people and lights and safety. My car wouldn't start. Completely dead. Wouldn't even turn over. No dashboard lights, nothing. The battery was fine yesterday. I know it was fine because I'd run the heater while sitting inside, trying to calm down. I went back into the cottage, hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock the door. My whole body felt like it was vibrating with panic. I don't know what made me grab the journal again. Maybe to prove to myself this was real, that I wasn't losing my mind. There was a new entry, dated yesterday, written in the same neat handwriting. An entry that absolutely was not there when I read through the journal last night. She found the closet. Tomorrow, she'll try to leave. Paper clipped to the page below it, a photograph. Me, asleep in my bed, last night. My face peaceful, unaware, vulnerable. Taken from inside the bedroom. I can see the angle. Whoever took this was standing right next to the bed, looking down at me while I slept. Someone was in this room with me. Someone stood over me in the dark and photographed me, and I never woke up. Someone has been inside this cottage the entire time I've been here, watching every move, documenting everything, directing me like I'm an actor in their script. I checked every door and window again. They're all still locked from the inside. Every single one. So how? How did someone get in? How have they been coming and going without leaving any trace? I tore through this house one more time. Every closet, under every bed, behind every piece of furniture. There's no one here now, but someone was here last night, and the doors were locked then too. The police are coming. I called 911 from my cell, and I'm sitting by the front door with a kitchen knife in my hand. I will not spend another minute alone in this place. The comments erupted in terror. Break the window and run now. Don't wait for police. Run to the nearest neighbor's house right this second. Someone who can do this has already planned for police involvement. Former investigator here. The journal entries being that specific suggest long-term surveillance, not just a few days. Someone either had access to your online activity or was physically watching you before you arrived. Wait, I live near that area. Was this the blue cottage on Seagrass Lane? There were rumors about that property last year, but nothing concrete. If there were already rumors, local PD should have been monitoring that address. Someone dropped the ball here. OP, make sure you file a formal complaint if they ignored prior reports. Why would someone do this? What's the end game here? Because they've done it before. This level of planning doesn't happen on the first try. She didn't wait for the sirens. I grabbed the lamp from the bedside table and smashed the bedroom window. Glass shattered everywhere, cutting my hands as I climbed through. I didn't care. I ran barefoot across the gravel driveway toward the nearest house, blood dripping from my palms, leaving a trail behind me. I pounded on the door with my bleeding fists. The door opened. A woman stood there in pajamas, looking concerned. Then I saw her face. Really saw it. It was her, the woman from the support group, the vanished profile, the face I'd trusted for weeks. Recognition flashed across her expression at the same moment. Her concern twisted into something predatory. She lunged for my wrist. I jerked back, fell hard on the gravel. She came after me. I scrambled up and spotted her car in the driveway, keys dangling in the ignition. I ran, threw myself into the driver's seat, locked the doors just as she reached the handle. She screamed and pounded the window while I floored the accelerator. I drove 40 minutes to the next town, bleeding all over the steering wheel, barely able to see through tears. Went straight to the police station and told them everything. What the police found made it so much worse. They went to the cottage immediately, found the Airbnb host's body in the basement. She'd been dead for weeks. They issued a manhunt for the neighbor, but she vanished completely. When they searched the property, they found belongings from multiple women. Different sizes, different styles, like a collection. Suitcases, clothes, personal items, evidence of at least 4 other victims. And then they found my journal. Not the future-dated one from the closet, my personal journal. The one I kept at my apartment back home. The one where I'd written about my abusive relationship, my fears, my plans to escape, private thoughts I'd never shared with anyone. She'd been inside my home, months before I joined that support group. She'd studied me, read my journal, documented my life. She created the fake profile, joined the group I was in, befriended me, earned my trust. She knew exactly what to say because she'd already read my deepest fears and vulnerabilities. The journal in the closet could predict my future because she'd already stolen my past. Every routine, every habit, every anxiety. She'd learned it all by watching me for months. The beach cottage was never a sanctuary. It was always the trap. Some predators don't wait in shadows. They build the refuge you're fleeing toward. I'm so sorry this happened to you. The fact that your friend from the support group disappeared from your messages is chilling. How long had you been talking to them? Almost 2 months. She was so kind and supportive. She knew exactly what to say to make me trust her. The police found chat logs on her laptop. She'd done this to at least 4 other women. I was supposed to be number 5. On to the next one. Everyone in my town started calling me by a different name overnight. 26, female. I'm a 26-year-old elementary school teacher living alone in a small town. I've been here my whole life. My mother Linda lives about 10 minutes away, and we're very close. I usually stop by her place a couple times a week. This morning started normal. I got up around 7, made toast, and decided to drop by my mom's house before work. I walked in through the unlocked front door like I always do. Mom was in the kitchen making scrambled eggs. "Morning, Sarah, honey," she said without turning around. "Want some eggs?" I froze. Sarah? My name isn't Sarah. It's never been Sarah. "Mom, what did you just call me?" I asked, trying to laugh it off. Maybe I'd misheard. She turned around, spatula in hand, looking confused. "What do you mean?" "You called me Sarah. That's not my name." The color drained from her face. She set the spatula down slowly, her hands shaking. "Sweetheart, did you hit your head? Fall down or something?" Her voice had that careful tone people use when they think someone's having a mental breakdown. "No, Mom, I'm fine. You've never called me that before." I waited for her to laugh, to tell me she was joking, to snap out of it. She didn't laugh. Mom walked over and put her hand on my forehead like she was checking for a fever. "Sarah, you're scaring me. You've always been Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. That's been your name since the day you were born." The way she said it, with complete conviction like I was the crazy one, made my stomach drop. She genuinely believed what she was saying. "Mom, please, this isn't funny." "I'm not trying to be funny," her voice cracked. "I'm worried about you. Maybe we should take you to the hospital." "I don't need a hospital. I need you to stop calling me the wrong name." She stepped back, hurt and fear on her face. For just a second, I thought I saw something else, something that looked like guilt. But then it was gone, and she was just my mom again, looking at me like I was a stranger. I couldn't stay. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. As I got into my car, I looked back. Mom was standing in the window, phone pressed to her ear, watching me with the kind of expression you'd have if your daughter had just lost her mind. I drove away with my hands shaking, because the worst part wasn't that she'd called me the wrong name, it was how certain she'd been that she was right. At school, the nightmare spread. I somehow made it to the elementary school. I was 15 minutes late, still shaking from what happened with my mom. The moment I walked through the front door, little Emma from my 3rd grade class ran up and hugged my leg. "Good morning, Miss Sarah." I pulled back. "Emma, that's not my name." She looked up at me confused. "But you're Miss Sarah. You told us that on the first day of school." "No, I didn't. I would never. That's not my name." 2 more students came over. "Hi, Mrs. Mitchell," one of them said cheerfully. I corrected them, both times. They just stared at me like I'd suddenly started speaking another language. By lunch, I was falling apart. 3 different colleagues in the teacher's lounge had called me Sarah. When I tried to correct them, they looked at each other with that same worried expression my mom had. "Are you feeling okay?" Mr. Henderson asked carefully. "You seem off today." I locked myself in a bathroom stall during lunch break and pulled out my driver's license with trembling hands. My real name, right there, still my name. The relief hit me so hard I almost cried. I wasn't crazy. I had proof. Rachel would know the truth. I drove straight to Rachel's apartment after school. Rachel has been my best friend since we were 12. If anyone would understand, it would be her. I knocked on her door, barely holding it together. Rachel opened it with a smile. "Hey, Sarah. Wasn't expecting you today. Come in." The world stopped. "Rachel," I said, my voice breaking. "What did you just call me?" Her smile faded. "Sarah? Your name? Are you okay?" "That's not... Rachel, please. You've known me for 14 years. She touched my arm gently. "I do know you. You're Sarah Mitchell. You've always been Sarah. What's going on?" "Everyone's been calling me that all day. My mom, my students, the teachers, and now you." Rachel's face went pale with worry. "Sarah, you're scaring me. Maybe you should see someone." "I don't need to see anyone. I need someone to remember who I actually am." She looked at me the same way my mother had that morning, like I was a stranger having a breakdown, like she genuinely, completely believed I was wrong. I left without another word. Every single person in this town believed I was Sarah Mitchell, and I had no way to prove them wrong. 3 days had passed. Everyone was still calling me Sarah Mitchell. The cashier at the grocery store, my neighbors, every student and teacher at school. I'd stopped correcting people. It only made them look at me with pity, like I needed medication. On the 4th day, I pulled out my driver's license again, the one that had shown my real name just days before. Sarah Mitchell. The name had changed. Sarah Mitchell. The photo was me, The address was my apartment, but the name, it had changed. I checked it 5 times, held it up to the light, but it was real. The same license, same crease in the corner, same coffee stain on the back. I grabbed my phone and opened my photo library. Some of the metadata had changed. Photos from last year that I'd taken myself, the file info now listed the owner as Sarah Mitchell. I pulled up my text conversation with Rachel, scrolled back months. "Hey Sarah, want to grab coffee this weekend?" "Sarah, did you see the news about..." "Love you, Sarah." Messages I remembered receiving. Messages where I knew she'd used my real name. But now they all said Sarah. No one would believe her. I spent the next 2 days searching online for anything similar. Mass delusion, shared psychosis, gaslighting on a town-wide scale. I found nothing. No cases like mine. No reports of entire communities suddenly believing someone was a different person. I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my license, my cards, my phone, desperate to find something that still showed my real name. Everything had changed. My credit cards, my library card, even my elementary school ID badge now read Sarah Mitchell, grade 3 teacher. I had no proof. Every piece of documentation said I was Sarah Mitchell and had always been Sarah Mitchell. Every person I knew believed it completely. I felt like I was losing my mind. Like maybe they were right and I was wrong. But I knew in my bones that Sarah Mitchell wasn't my name. I posted here tonight because I'm completely isolated. I can't prove to anyone who I actually am. My entire identity has been erased and replaced, and I have no idea how it happened or how to stop it. This is absolutely terrifying. Have you tried looking up Sarah Mitchell in local records or missing persons databases? I did. I found her. Sarah Mitchell, 26, reported missing from this town 6 months ago. The photos of her look similar to me. Same hair color, same build. The police report says she vanished from her apartment with no signs of struggle. Nobody ever found her. OP, please get out of that town now. This is not normal mass delusion. This is coordinated. I grew up in a town like this. Small places have secrets. If everyone is lying in unison, there's a reason. Get out while you still can. She had to confront her. My mother finally told me the truth. I spent 3 days going through every missing persons database I could find. State records, national registries, cold case forums. I found her. Sarah Mitchell, 26 years old, reported missing from this exact town 6 months ago. Last seen leaving her apartment one evening. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, no body ever found. The photo in the police report made my blood run cold. Same dark brown hair, same height and build. We could have been sisters. I printed the article and drove straight to my mother's house. Mom was in the living room when I walked in. I threw the printout on the coffee table in front of her. "Who is Sarah Mitchell?" She looked at the paper. All the color drained from her face. "Where did you get this?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "The internet. Who is she, Mom? Why does she look exactly like me?" My mother started crying. Not quiet tears, deep, racking sobs that shook her whole body. I'd never seen her cry like that in my entire life. "I'm so sorry," she choked out between sobs. "I knew this would happen to you. I knew, and I didn't warn you." "What are you talking about?" She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "The town does this. Every few years someone disappears, and then someone else becomes them, takes their place. Everyone remembers it differently afterward. The records all change. It's like the original person never existed at all." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "You knew? You knew this whole time and you didn't tell me?" "I couldn't." She was sobbing harder now. "If I'd warned you, if I'd tried to stop it, I would have lost you forever. The town would have made you disappear completely. At least this way you're still here. You're still my daughter, even if you have a different name now." "I'm not your daughter anymore," I said quietly. "I'm Sarah Mitchell, and you let it happen." Her mother had known all along. The fact that your own mother is doing this is what breaks my heart. Parents are supposed to protect you. I hate to ask, but is there any chance you hit your head recently? Ruling out medical causes before jumping to supernatural. though your mom's reaction is really disturbing. No medical condition explains an entire town calling someone by the wrong name. This is too coordinated to be OP's delusion. I tore my apartment apart looking for proof. Anything that showed my real name. I found old photo albums from high school, flipped them open. On the back of every single photo, written in handwriting I didn't recognize, was the name Sarah Mitchell. I pulled out my yearbooks, found my class photos. The face looking back at me was Sarah's face, not mine. Sarah Mitchell's name printed underneath. I checked my phone again, scrolled through every text conversation with my mother. Messages from 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago. Love you, Sarah. Sarah, don't forget to call me back. Happy birthday, Sarah. Every single one, going back years. I opened my laptop and searched for any social media accounts, any online presence with my real name. Nothing came up. Every profile I found showed Sarah Mitchell. Photos of me labeled as Sarah Mitchell. Friends congratulating Sarah Mitchell on her teaching job. There was no proof. Nothing that showed I'd ever been anyone else. The town hadn't just replaced my identity, it had rewritten history itself. She had to leave. I threw clothes into a bag, grabbed my wallet, my phone, my keys. I wasn't staying in this town another night. I got into my car and turned the key. Nothing. The engine didn't even try to turn over. I tried again. And again. The car had been running perfectly yesterday. I ran to my neighbor's house, banged on the door. Mrs. Chen answered, looking concerned. Sarah, what's wrong? I need to borrow your car. Please, it's an emergency. She handed me her keys without question. I got into her sedan and turned the ignition. Nothing. I tried 3 more times. Dead silence. I walked back to my apartment in a daze, sat on my bed and pulled out my wallet one last time. Driver's license, Sarah Mitchell. Credit cards, Sarah Mitchell. Library card, Sarah Mitchell. Elementary school ID badge with my photo, Sarah Mitchell, grade 3 teacher. Every single card, every piece of identification. My original identity had been completely erased. There was no evidence I had ever been anyone else. I am Sarah Mitchell now. I don't know who I was before, and I never will. Document everything right now. Take photos of your ID, screenshot your social media profiles, save anything that proves your real name, before it's too late. On to the next one. My Tinder date, 29, male, knew things about me, 27, female, I've never told anyone. I just found out my best friend has been selling my information. It started with a name. I'm still shaking and I don't know what to do. I'm a 27F marketing coordinator living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. Every morning for the past 3 years, I've had the exact same routine. I stop at this local coffee shop on my way to work around 7:45 a.m. My best friend Jenna works there as a barista. We've known each other since college, and most mornings we chat while she makes my latte. It's been one of the few constants in my life. I've been single for about 18 months. My older sister Sarah kept pushing me to try dating apps, saying I needed to put myself out there again. A few weeks ago, I finally caved and made a Tinder profile. Within a couple days, I matched with this guy. Let's call him Mark, 29, male. He was attractive, had a good job in tech, seemed genuinely interesting from his profile. We texted for maybe 3 days before he asked me out. Our first date was at this wine bar near my apartment. It was honestly perfect. The conversation flowed, he was charming and funny, we had similar taste in movies and books, no red flags at all. When he asked me out for a second date, I said yes immediately. Second date was last Friday at an Italian restaurant. Everything was going great again, until dessert arrived. We were talking about childhood memories, just casual conversation, and he laughed and said something like, "I bet Biscuit would have loved this tiramisu." I froze. Biscuit was my childhood dog's name. A golden retriever I had from ages 6 to 15. I have never, and I mean never, mentioned Biscuit to anyone I've dated. I don't have photos of him on social media. His name isn't anywhere online that I know of. I asked Mark how he possibly knew that name. He looked confused and said, "You told me about Biscuit on our first date, remember? When we were talking about pets?" I absolutely did not. We talked about whether we were cat or dog people in general, but I never mentioned a specific dog, and I definitely never said the name Biscuit. I would remember that. I tried to laugh it off in the moment because I didn't want to seem paranoid or crazy, but I've been obsessing over it for days. There is no way he could have known that unless he's stalking me somehow. Am I overreacting? Should I be worried? How did he know? It kept happening. I convinced myself I was being paranoid after the Biscuit thing. Maybe I had mentioned it and somehow forgot? Mark texted me the next day asking about a third date, and against my better judgment, I said yes. I wanted to believe I was overreacting. Date 3 was coffee at this place near the park. We were walking afterward, and he asked if I'd been to Lake Geneva lately. I stopped walking. Lake Geneva is this tiny lake in Wisconsin my family used to go to every summer when I was a kid. We went there when I was 8 years old for 2 weeks and stayed in this little cabin. It's not a famous lake. It's not somewhere people just randomly bring up. I asked him how he knew about Lake Geneva, and he said, "Didn't you mention it was your favorite childhood vacation spot?" I absolutely 100% did not mention that. I've never mentioned Lake Geneva to anyone I've dated. Ever. Then date 4, last Tuesday. We went to this steakhouse, and halfway through dinner there was a crack of thunder outside. I must have flinched or something because Mark reached across the table and said, "It's okay. I know thunderstorms make you nervous." My blood went cold. I have been genuinely afraid of thunderstorms since I was a kid, but it's not something I talk about. It's embarrassing. I definitely have never mentioned it to him. And then, and this is what really freaked me out, he casually said something about how I must have hated having braces in 7th grade. 7th grade. I had braces for exactly 1 year in 7th grade. There are maybe 3 photos of me from that time period total, and none of them are online. None of my social media goes back that far. She started checking everything. I went home that night and spent 4 hours going through every single social media account I have. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything. All of my accounts are private. I checked every single post, every photo, every comment I've ever made. There is nothing about Lake Geneva, nothing about Biscuit, nothing about braces, nothing about thunderstorms. I even searched my email to see if maybe I'd mentioned these things in a newsletter or something that got leaked. Nothing. I asked Mark directly how he knew about the braces. He looked at me like I was crazy and said, "You told me about them when we were talking about awkward phases on our second date." We did not talk about awkward phases. I would remember that conversation. When I pushed back, he got kind of annoyed and said I must have mentioned it and forgotten, that he's not making this stuff up, that maybe I need to pay more attention to our conversations. Now I'm sitting here feeling insane. Is he gaslighting me? How else could he possibly know these things? I've been racking my brain trying to figure out if there's any way he could be accessing my accounts somehow. Could someone hack into private Instagram? Could he have spyware on my phone? I don't even know if that's possible, but I'm genuinely starting to wonder if he's stalking me digitally somehow. This is beyond weird coincidences. These are specific, personal details from my childhood that aren't documented anywhere online. Am I losing my mind, or is this as creepy as it feels? Something was very wrong. After date 4, I went into full investigation mode. I paid a security company to sweep my apartment for hidden cameras. They checked everything. Bedroom, bathroom, vents. Found nothing. I changed every password, enabled 2-factor on all accounts, reviewed every single app permission on my phone. I called my sister Sarah and asked if she'd ever posted anything about me that mentioned Lake Geneva or Biscuit. She said no, that she barely posts about herself. I was running out of explanations. Part of me wondered if I was losing it. Maybe I had mentioned these things and blocked it out somehow, but I would remember talking about Biscuit. I've dated enough to know I've never brought him up before. When Mark texted asking about a 5th date, I should have said no. But I wanted to confront him face to face, see his reaction when I really pushed. So I agreed to meet for dinner last night. We met at a Thai restaurant. 10 minutes in, I confronted him. I said there was no way he could know about Biscuit or Lake Geneva unless he was stalking me. How was he getting this information? He got defensive, called me paranoid, said I must have memory problems, that I was being dramatic. For a second, I wondered if he was right. Then he mentioned my boss had been a jerk today, something about rejecting my campaign proposal in front of the whole team. Asked if I was okay. That conversation happened at 9:30 this morning. I stopped at the coffee shop around 10 a.m. to vent to Jenna about it. I didn't text anyone, didn't post about it. I told one person, Jenna, in person, 6 hours before this dinner. I stood up, told him never to contact me, and left. Blocked everything from my car. This has to count as stalking, right? Should I go to the police? I'm genuinely terrified. This is absolutely terrifying. Please tell me you've checked all your devices for spyware or keyloggers. Have you reverse image searched his profile? I hate to say it, but this level of detail sounds like professional catfishing, or worse. Could he know someone you know? Maybe a mutual friend is feeding him information about you. I've been obsessing over this question. The only people who know about Biscuit are my family and Jenna, my best friend who works at the coffee shop I stop at every single morning before work. But she would never do something like this. Would she? We've been friends for 3 years. The truth was on her phone the whole time. I confronted my best friend, and it's so much worse than I imagined. I followed the advice from comments and went through my phone last night. What I found has destroyed me completely. Screenshots I didn't take in my camera roll, my Tinder profile with all photos, messages with Mark and 3 other matches, texts with Jenna about work, dating, everything. Every timestamp, 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., coffee shop time. When I leave my phone on the counter for the bathroom or napkins, when Jenna is alone with my unlocked phone. I scrolled back months. More screenshots. Conversations where I told Jenna about Biscuit, Lake Geneva, thunderstorms, braces in 7th grade, my boss. Every detail Mark knew. She's been photographing my life every morning for months. 3 years of friendship, 6 days a week, systematically documenting me while making my latte. Mark didn't hack anything. Jenna had regular access to my unlocked phone. She had to be feeding him information. I don't know what she's doing with it. Selling to guys on dating apps? But the timestamps match exactly when I'm vulnerable at the shop. I'm supposed to see her tomorrow. Confront her first or go to police? I feel violated in ways I can't describe. The comments flooded in with warnings. OP, please document everything. Screenshot all his messages. Save the dates and times of when he mentioned things. This could escalate. The dog name thing is not normal. Nobody remembers random childhood pet names from a first date. He wanted you to know he has information. Exactly. That's a power move. He's showing her that he knows things he shouldn't, testing how she reacts. This is textbook manipulation. She went to the coffee shop. I printed out every screenshot and went to the coffee shop this morning. Jenna saw me walk in and smiled like nothing was wrong, started making my usual latte. I put the printed screenshots on the counter in front of her. All those images of my phone screen from the past 6 months. Her face went completely white. She broke down crying immediately. Didn't even try to deny it, just started talking. She's been running an underground dating coach service for months through a private Instagram account. Men pay her anywhere from $200 to $500 for detailed insider information packages on women from dating apps. Personality profiles, conversation guides, personal history, vulnerabilities, fears, everything she could gather from my phone and our conversations. Mark wasn't a stalker. He was a paying client who bought a premium package about me. She kept saying she desperately needed the money, that her hours got cut and she couldn't make rent, that she knew it was wrong but couldn't stop. She said I was her best friend and she hated herself for doing it. 3 years of friendship. Someone I saw every single morning, someone I trusted with absolutely everything. And she turned our entire relationship into a product. Sold my childhood memories, my deepest fears, my private conversations to complete strangers so they could manipulate me on dates. I can't even look at her. The police took it seriously. I walked out and called the police from my car, reported everything, unauthorized access to my phone, potential fraud, privacy violations. They took it seriously because of the screenshots proving she accessed my device without permission. There's an active investigation now. I also went straight to the coffee shop manager with copies of everything. Showed him the timestamps, the screenshots Jenna took while she was supposed to be working. He fired her immediately. But the worst part is knowing Mark probably isn't the only one. If she's been running this service for months, dozens of men across the city might have bought information packages about me. About Biscuit, about Lake Geneva, about my thunderstorm phobia, about my work drama. Things I thought were private conversations with someone I trusted. I feel violated in a way I can't articulate, like I've been walking around completely exposed without realizing it. The comments suggesting a civil suit were right. I'm meeting with a lawyer next week to discuss my options and to see if we can force her to disclose how many clients she had and whether other women were victims too. I need to know the full scope of what she did. This sounds like someone close to you is telling him things. Who knows about your childhood dog? Who sees your daily routine? On to the next one. I just found out the person I've been texting "Goodnight, Mom" to for 8 months was my fiancé. I, 26 female, work night shifts in the ICU. The hours are brutal. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 3 or 4 nights a week. Watching people fight for their lives in those quiet, fluorescent hours when the rest of the world is asleep. For the past 8 months, my anchor has been my phone on break. Around 2 a.m., when things slow down, I text my mom and my younger sister Emma goodnight. Just normal stuff. How my shift is going, which patient coded, family updates. Mom always responds with something comforting. Tells me she's proud of me, asks if I'm eating enough, sends me recipes I never have time to make. Emma sends memes or tells me about her terrible dates or her drama at work. These conversations got me through everything. The deaths I couldn't prevent, the exhaustion that makes you feel like you're moving through water, the weight of keeping people alive. I've been living with my fiancé for about a year. He works normal hours. We text during my breaks too, but those conversations with Mom and Emma, those felt different, more real, my safe space. She thought she knew what her anchor looked like. An hour ago, Emma showed up at my apartment. She didn't call first. She just pounded on the door until I answered, still in my scrubs from my shift. She was shaking, not crying, but this cold, rigid fury I have never seen on her face before. How could you say those things about Mom's cancer? Her voice was ice. I stared at her. Cancer? What cancer? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. She was trembling harder now. The messages, the things you said, about how she's being overdramatic, about how you're disappointed in her, how you wished she'd just handle it better. I felt my stomach drop. Emma, I don't know what you're talking about. What cancer? When did Mom get diagnosed? She never told me. Emma's face changed then. The anger flickered into something else. Confusion. Maybe horror. You've been texting her, every night, for months. I have been texting her. We talk about normal things. Her garden, what she's making for dinner. She asks about my patients. Emma pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped it. And I felt something crack open inside me. This sick, dawning realization spreading like ice water through my veins. Something is catastrophically wrong with those 8 months of conversations I thought were real. The phone in her pocket suddenly felt like evidence. She still believed she could prove it. I yanked my phone out of my pocket, hands shaking. Look, I'll show you. I never sent anything like that. I pulled up my messages with Mom. 8 months of conversation. I scrolled to show Emma. See? Normal stuff. Mom asking about my shifts, me telling her about a patient who coded, her sending me a recipe for soup, me complaining about being tired, her telling me she loved me. Look at the contact, Emma said quietly. I tapped it. The number loaded. It wasn't Mom's number. I stared at it. That's not her number. I know her number. I've known her number for years. Emma's face had gone white. Show me your messages with me. I pulled them up. Same thing. Months of conversations. Her telling me about bad dates, me sending her memes from work, her asking about my patients. All normal. All not her number. Emma was crying now. She shoved her phone in my face. These are the messages we've been getting from you. I read them. My stomach turned inside out. Messages from my number, sent to Mom, about her cancer diagnosis, calling her overdramatic, saying she was being pathetic about the treatment, telling her I was embarrassed by how she was handling it, saying I wish she would just deal with it quietly instead of burdening everyone. I have never written those words in my life. I didn't send these. My voice didn't sound like mine. Emma, I swear to God, I didn't send these. Then who did? The answer was already taking shape between them. I started scrolling back through my messages with Mom. January, December, November. 8 months back. Every conversation I thought I'd had with her. Every time I told her about a patient dying on my shift and she comforted me. Every time I shared my fears about whether I was good enough at my job and she told me I was. Every recipe, every good night, every I love you. All of it was him, my fiancé, responding as my mother for 8 months. I pulled up Emma, same thing. Every meme, every joke, every piece of sister advice, every complaint about her job, all of it was him pretending to be her. He answered everything. My fears about patients dying, my exhaustion after 16-hour shifts, my questions about family stuff. He knew everything I was thinking, everything I was feeling, because I told him. I thought I was telling my family. When was Mom diagnosed? I asked. My voice sounded far away. 3 months ago. Emma was still crying. Stage 2 breast cancer. She called you. You, the person we thought was you. You told her she was being dramatic, that she probably just wanted attention. When she texted you about starting treatment, you sent back that you were disappointed in how she was handling it, that she should be stronger. I never knew she was sick. We thought you'd changed, that night shifts had made you cold or something, that you didn't care anymore. Mom blocked you last month after whoever this was, sent her a message saying she was embarrassing the family. He changed my contacts. He intercepted everything. He responded as them, to me. He responded as me, to them. And we all thought we were talking to each other while he controlled every single word. There had to be a way to reach her. I tried calling Mom. Real Mom. Emma gave me the actual number. It rang twice and went to voicemail. My own mother's voice. And I couldn't speak. I just hung up. She blocked you, Emma said quietly. After the last message he sent. My fiancé is at work. Normal office hours. He won't be home for another 6 hours. Emma and I started going through my phone systematically. Settings, apps, contacts. He has access to my location services. Cloud storage backing up to an account I don't recognize. Email forwarding rules I never created. Emma found it in my message settings. He can see my deleted texts. Everything I thought I'd erased. Every conversation with coworkers. How long has this been happening? Emma asked. I scrolled through the contact edit history. 8 months? The whole time I thought I was talking to you and Mom. She still hadn't grasped the full weight. We need to leave. Now. Emma was already standing. Pack essentials. Don't tell him where you're going. I couldn't move. These were my most intimate conversations. Every night at 2 a.m. when I'd text Mom about watching a patient die. When I'd tell her I was scared I wasn't good enough. When I'd share my deepest fears. He responded as Mom. He comforted me. He said he was proud of me. All those messages I saved and reread when shifts got too hard, they were from him, pretending to be my mother. Emma was throwing clothes into a bag. My scrubs, my charger. What else? Documents? I stared at my phone. At 8 months of fake conversations. At him reading every terrified thought I had. At him watching me process trauma and grief, using that knowledge to control exactly how isolated I became. He didn't just intercept my family. He studied how I think, how I break, what comforts me, and he used my own mother's voice to do it. This is beyond gaslighting. This is systematic isolation and identity theft. Document everything before he can delete it. Get a new phone with a new number he doesn't know. This level of premeditation and manipulation is genuinely terrifying. This wasn't a jealous impulse. This was calculated control. Please consider a DV advocate before going to police. They can help you safety plan. How is this even possible? Like, how did you not notice the numbers were different? I'm not blaming you, I'm just trying to understand so I can protect myself. He had access to my phone passcode. We shared everything for trust. He just edited the existing contacts, so when I texted Mom, it still said Mom with her photo. I never thought to check the actual number underneath. And he knew I'd never call because of our opposite schedules. The update came hours later. Found his planning notebook. This started before we even moved in together. I'm at my best friend Sarah's apartment. I'm not saying where for safety reasons. I finally got through to my real mom. Emma unblocked me from Mom's phone. When Mom answered, she just broke down crying, completely shattered. She kept saying, "I thought I lost you. I thought my daughter was gone." She told me everything the messages said, the ones he sent pretending to be me. When she first told him about her cancer diagnosis, I responded that she was being overly dramatic, that it was probably nothing and she just wanted attention. When she texted about starting chemo, I said I was disappointed in how she was handling treatment, that she should be stronger, that she was embarrassing the family with how she talked about it. Mom said the worst message came when she texted about losing her hair. I sent back, "This is why I don't call anymore. You make everything about you." The isolation worked perfectly both ways. I thought my family was pulling away from me because of my night shifts and exhaustion. They thought I'd become a completely heartless person. But here's what I found tonight, and this is what makes it so much worse. Sarah helped me access his laptop remotely. He's arrogant enough to use the same password for everything. We found a notebook, physical, handwritten, his actual handwriting. It goes back 14 months. That's 4 months before we even moved in together. He documented everything. Exactly which contact he changed and when, step-by-step instructions for which monitoring apps to install on my phone while I was sleeping, notes on how to keep his responses believable as Mom and Emma, their speech patterns, the topics they'd care about. He even had a section on my texting patterns so he could mimic me convincingly when sending messages to them as me. This wasn't a jealous impulse. This wasn't him spiraling out of control. This was methodical, calculated, a plan he executed from nearly the very beginning. The proof was inescapable. I used to work in digital forensics. What he did is criminal. It's wiretapping, identity fraud, and depending on your state, coercive control. Screenshot everything. The planning notes are evidence of premeditation. Fellow night shift nurse here. The exhaustion makes us vulnerable to stuff like this. We're running on fumes and trust our partners to handle the small stuff. I'm so angry for you. This exactly. After a 12-hour shift dealing with codes and deaths, you're not going to notice subtle changes in your phone. He weaponized her exhaustion and trust. Absolutely premeditated. I'm still at Sarah's apartment. Mom and Emma have been helping me remotely. We're going through everything systematically. I changed every password. Bank accounts, email, social media, my hospital portal, everything. We factory reset my phone. I filed a police report this morning. The detective said what he did qualifies as criminal impersonation, identity theft, possibly wiretapping, depending on how he accessed my messages. But then we found more. Tracking apps I never installed. He can see my location history. He can read my messages in real time. He can take screenshots of my phone remotely. We found he has access to my Cars Connected app. He can see where I've driven, when, for how long. My Fitbit shows him my sleep patterns, my heart rate, my activity, my work badge scanner. He set up an alert to notify him every time I enter or leave the hospital. The scope keeps expanding. Every hour we find another access point, another way he's been watching. I don't know yet what all he controls. I can't know. That's the thing that's keeping me up. I cannot be certain I've found everything. The untangling had just begun. My ex did something similar with my work emails. I'm so sorry. The violation of trust is unreal. Please don't confront him again alone. On to the next one. My downstairs neighbor pounds on the ceiling every time I have a private conversation. But he died 3 weeks ago. Someone was listening to everything. I'm a medical transcriptionist, 26, working from home alone in my one-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor. My job is listening to doctors' audio recordings all day and typing them up. Quiet work, headphones only most of the time. I live alone. No roommates, no pets, just me. For the past 2 months, my downstairs neighbor has been pounding on his ceiling, my floor, every single time I have a private conversation. Not when I play music, not when I watch TV, not when I'm transcribing work files out loud to check my accuracy. only when I'm having an actual conversation with another person. The timing is what scares me. It's surgical. I'll answer my phone, say, "Hey Emma," to my younger sister, and before I finish the word, there's 3 hard pounds from directly below my couch. Work calls with my supervisor. The second I mention anything personal, even just, "How was your weekend?" the pounding starts. At first I thought maybe I was talking louder than I realized. I started monitoring my volume, even got a decibel meter app. Normal conversation levels, sometimes barely above a whisper. That wasn't it. Then it started happening during my therapy sessions. The violation was absolute. She needed answers. I started documenting everything, every single instance. I have a spreadsheet now. Date, time, what I was doing, who I was talking to, estimated volume level, location in my apartment, number of pounds from below. 2 months of data, 247 entries. The pattern is absolute. Music at any volume? Nothing. TV on loud enough that I worry about bothering neighbors myself? Nothing. Me transcribing work files out loud, reading back entire paragraphs to check accuracy? Nothing. But the second I'm on the phone with Emma, or my supervisor calls about scheduling, or Dr. Chen asks how I'm feeling, pounding. Always within 3 seconds of my first word. I tested it systematically, put on a podcast, talked along with the hosts. Nothing. Called Emma, said hello, pounding. Hung up, turned on music, sang along badly. Nothing. Called back, whispered, "Hey, can you hear me?" Pounding. It's not volume. It's not time of day. It's not which room I'm in. It's conversation. Human connection. Every single time. I decided I had to confront him. Whoever this is, whatever game they're playing, it needs to stop. I pay rent for a private space, and this has gone beyond noise complaints into something that feels deliberate and invasive. I barely know this person. That one time in the hallway months ago? Older guy, maybe 60s, kept his head down. I don't even know his name, but he's making my home unbearable. The door stayed closed. She went looking for answers. I went to building management this morning. The property manager, Carol, has run this building for 15 years. "I need to file a noise complaint about Unit 204, I said. That's directly below me. Carol pulled up the records. I watched her face change. "Unit 204, she said slowly. "Yes, the tenant has been pounding on the ceiling for 2 months, multiple times a day. I've tried talking to him, but he won't answer his door." Carol stared at her screen, then at me. "That's not possible." "I know it seems excessive, but I have documentation." "No, I mean, that's literally not possible. Unit 204 has been vacant for 3 weeks. The air left my lungs. "That can't be right. It happened last night." "The previous tenant died," Carol said quietly. She pulled a death certificate from a file drawer. May 20th, 3 weeks ago. "Mr. Harrison, heart attack in his sleep. His sister cleared out his things 2 weeks ago. The unit's been empty since." I felt cold. Then who's been pounding on my ceiling? Carol had no answer. That night, she called Emma. "This is absolutely terrifying. Have you checked if there's any space between your floor and their ceiling? Sometimes sound travels weird in old buildings. I work in property management. If a tenant died and the apartment is vacant, there should be zero noise from there. Something's very wrong. I had a similar experience in my last apartment. Turned out there was a crawl space I didn't know about. You should check your lease and building blueprints." I requested the original blueprints from 1987 when this building was converted. There's a 6 by 8 foot section in my unit that doesn't match the current layout. It should be part of my bedroom closet, but the closet is only 4 feet deep. The landlord claims it was sealed off for structural reasons during renovation. She posted an update. I opened the sealed closet. I couldn't sleep after discovering Unit 204 was empty. I spent the entire night researching this building through public records, property transfers, old news archives. The previous tenant of MY Apartment, Unit 304, not the one below, was a woman named Sarah Chen, 28 years old, medical billing specialist who worked from home, just like me. No relation to my therapist, Dr. Chen, different person entirely. She moved in January 2025. By March 2025, she'd filed 7 noise complaints with building management. The complaints described exactly what I've been experiencing: pounding sounds during phone calls and private conversations, impossibly precise timing. She claimed someone was listening to her, monitoring every word. Management dismissed her. Pipes, they said. Stress from isolation. Her complaints grew more desperate. She stopped leaving the apartment, stopped answering her sister's calls. Her final complaint, dated April 12th, stated the pounding was coming from inside her own unit, not from neighbors. On April 18th, 2025, Sarah Chen disappeared. Building management found her door unlocked, apartment completely empty. No signs of packing, no moving company, no forwarding address. She vanished. The building sold 2 weeks later. During renovation, they sealed off a section of Unit 304. Structural concerns, the permits claimed. I pulled the original 1987 blueprints. My bedroom closet should be 8 feet deep. My actual closet is 4 feet deep. There's a sealed 6 by 8 foot space behind my closet wall that doesn't exist on current floor plans. She tested it. The timing is too perfect to be coincidence. Even if someone was listening, how would they know the exact second you start talking? The fact that it happens even when you whisper, that's not normal. Please be careful, OP. Exactly. I don't care what the landlord says about pipes or settling. Nothing natural responds that precisely to human speech. She broke it open. I bought a crowbar this morning. The sealed section behind my bedroom closet, I pried away the drywall panel. It came off easier than expected, like someone had removed and replaced it before. The space inside was small, 6 feet by 8 feet, completely dark. I shined my phone light inside. Belongings. A phone in a pink case, screen cracked, wireframe glasses, crumpled clothes in the corner, a polo shirt with a medical billing company logo, jeans, sneakers still tied, and a journal. I pulled it out. The cover had a name in marker, Sarah Chen. I sat on my bedroom floor and read. The first entries were normal. January 2025, describing her new apartment, excited about working from home. Then February, mentions of odd sounds. By March, everything changed. The pounding started during a call with my sister. I was whispering. How did they hear? Management says pipes, but pipes don't respond to conversation. Tested it, whispered in my bedroom. The pounding came from my walls. The handwriting deteriorated, sentences fragmented. By April, the entries were desperate, barely legible. April 12th. Not below, not neighbors. In the wall, behind closet. Moving closer when I speak. Need to open it. Need to see. The sentence stopped mid-word. Pen dragged across the page. The silence was absolute. Could be pipes or HVAC responding to air pressure changes when you speak. Old buildings do weird things. On to the next one. During my massage at a wellness retreat, the therapist whispered things I'd only written in my private journal. Security footage shows I was completely alone in that room. I, 31 female, am a freelance copywriter who lives alone in a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. Work has been brutal lately. Tight deadlines, demanding clients, the usual chaos of working from home without boundaries. My best friend Emma noticed I was burning out. 2 weeks ago, she showed up at my door with a printed confirmation. A surprise weekend at Serenity Springs, an upscale wellness retreat about 2 hours north of the city. You need this, she said, refusing to take no for an answer. Massages, meditation, organic meals. I already paid for everything. Just go. I arrived Friday afternoon. The place was stunning. All natural wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking pine forests. Soft instrumental music played in the lobby. The staff spoke in hushed, calming tones. A young woman in cream-colored linen led me down a quiet hallway to the spa wing. Your massage is scheduled for 4 p.m., she said, opening the door to a dimly lit room. The therapist will be here shortly. Just lie face down and relax. The room smelled like lavender and eucalyptus. I undressed, slipped under the warm sheets on the massage table, and positioned my face in the cradle. Soft ambient music played from hidden speakers. I closed my eyes and felt my shoulders start to unclench for the first time in months. The door never opened. I don't know how long I lay there before I heard the voice. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. I was drifting in that half-asleep state when a woman's voice, close to my ear, whispered, "You were 13 when you first tried to tell someone about him. She didn't believe you." My entire body went rigid. The voice was soft, almost soothing, but the words, those specific words, made my blood run cold. I have never spoken those words aloud. Not to Emma, not to any therapist in person, not to anyone. That memory, that specific detail about being 13 and trying to tell my aunt about what my stepfather was doing, I only wrote about it 3 weeks ago in my therapy journal app. The encrypted one I use instead of traditional therapy because I can't afford a real therapist right now. I tried to lift my head, but my face was still in the cradle, limiting my view. I felt hands on my shoulder blades, real pressure, warm and firm, professional massage strokes. "How?" I started to ask, but the voice continued, still that same gentle whisper. "You wrote that you still wake up sometimes and check the lock on your bedroom door, even though you live alone now." That's a verbatim line from my journal, from an entry I made 4 days ago, an entry I typed on my phone at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. No one has access to that app. It's password protected and encrypted. I've never shared the login with anyone. I couldn't move. My mind was screaming at me to sit up, to turn around, to run, but my body wouldn't respond. The hands continued working on my shoulder blades, kneading the muscles with practiced precision. The pressure was real. The warmth was real. The voice whispered again, still close to my ear. "You wrote that Emma doesn't know the real reason you moved out of your last apartment, that you couldn't tell her about the man in the parking garage." My stomach dropped. I wrote that 6 days ago. A late-night journal entry about why I never told Emma the full story, that a man followed me to my car 3 times in 1 week at my old building, that I lied and said I moved because rent went up. "The sessions help, even though they're expensive," the voice continued, perfectly calm. "You told yourself it's worth eating ramen twice a day if it means you can sleep at night." Those exact words, from an entry I made last Tuesday. I remember typing them while heating up instant ramen in my apartment kitchen. I managed to turn my head slightly in the cradle, trying to glimpse who was speaking. All I could see was a blurred figure in white. Therapist scrubs, maybe, but the dim lighting and my position made it impossible to focus. "How do you—" I started, my voice shaking. "Emma worries about you," the voice whispered. "You wrote that sometimes you resent how easily happiness comes to her, how she's never had to check locks or avoid parking garages or wake up afraid." I wrote that. I wrote every word of that in my journal last week. She shouldn't have been able to breathe that close without OP feeling it. Something finally broke through my paralysis. I shoved myself up from the table, sheets falling away, spinning around on the cushioned surface. A woman stood there, maybe 40, dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing cream-colored scrubs with the Serenity Springs logo embroidered on the chest. She was smiling, not menacing, just pleasant and professional, like she'd been giving a normal massage this whole time. "How the hell do you know those things?" I demanded, my voice cracking. "How do you know what I wrote in my private journal?" She tilted her head slightly, that serene smile never wavering. "We provide deeply personalized healing here. All of our services are tailored to each guest's specific needs." "That's not an answer," I said, scrambling to grab my clothes from the chair. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my shirt. "I never told anyone those things. That journal is encrypted, password protected. No one has access to it." "The treatment isn't finished," she said, gesturing calmly to the table. "You still have 20 minutes scheduled. Please, lie back down." "No!" I was pulling my clothes on as fast as I could, not caring that I was still covered in massage oil. "I'm done. This session is over." I rushed to the door, yanked it open, and stumbled into the hallway. The woman didn't follow. When I glanced back, she was still standing there in that dimly lit room, hands folded peacefully in front of her, watching me with that same pleasant smile. I ran. I ran straight to the front desk, still buttoning my shirt, massage oil soaking through the fabric. "I need to speak to someone about the therapist who just worked on me," I said, my voice shaking. The receptionist looked confused. Which therapist? Room 7. Dark hair in a bun, cream scrubs. A manager appeared from the back office. I'm sorry, but we don't have anyone matching that description on our staff. She pulled up something on her computer. And your massage appointment isn't until tomorrow at 2 p.m. Room 7 has been locked all afternoon for maintenance. That's impossible. I was just in there. Someone was in there with me. The manager's expression shifted. Concerned, careful, like she was dealing with someone unstable. Let me get our spa director. The spa director arrived within minutes, showed me the schedule on her tablet. Room 7, blocked off, empty, locked since noon. Would you be willing to review our security footage? She asked gently. We can show you exactly who entered that room. Yes, please. The footage showed an empty hallway, and then it showed her walk in alone. They led me to a small office. The manager pulled up the security feed. I watched myself enter room 7 at 3:47 p.m. Close the door. The hallway stayed empty. No one else entered. At 4:32 p.m., I burst out alone, looking terrified, clothes hastily pulled on. She was there, I whispered. I felt her hands. But as I stared at that impossible footage, I became aware of my shoulders. They ached, deep muscle soreness, exactly where hands had been pressing. My shirt was soaked with massage oil, eucalyptus and something herbal. What oil do your therapists use? I asked. Organic lavender blend. I pulled my collar away, inhaled. The smell wasn't lavender. It wasn't anything in their product line. My shoulders ached. My shirt was soaked with oil. The scent was real, and according to their cameras, I had been completely alone in that room. I work in security systems, and I'm telling you, footage can be manipulated. Someone with the right access could loop footage or edit you out. Check if the retreat had any IT contractors working that week. I asked about this. The retreat owner let me review the raw footage files with their IT person present. The metadata shows no editing, no gaps, continuous recording. What makes it worse is that you can see me reacting to things, flinching when the hands pressed harder, trying to turn my head when the whispers got intense. I'm clearly responding to something, but I'm the only person visible in the room. OP, I'm genuinely worried about Emma. That wellness service sounds like a scam targeting vulnerable people. Has she noticed any other weird charges or had her identity stolen? Also, please file a police report. The fact that the website vanished is the scariest part to me. Emma definitely got scammed, but by who? And for what purpose? They didn't just take her money, they used your trauma against you in person. She needed answers. What she got was proof of the impossible. I confronted Emma and saw the security footage. Management reviewed every camera angle with me. The footage covers the entire room. 3:47 p.m. I enter alone. Door auto locks. 3:47 to 4:32 p.m. 45 minutes on that table. No door opens. No movement except my position shifts. 4:32 p.m. I sit up suddenly and bolt out, shaking. I was completely alone the entire time. But in my bathroom mirror, I found hand-shaped bruises on both shoulder blades. Dark purple finger marks pressed deep into muscle. I tried reaching back. Physically impossible. The angle can't be done without someone else's hands. My shirt reeked of massage oil. Manager analyzed it. Not in their inventory, not any product they use. I called Emma. Did you give someone my journal login? Silence. Crying. I'm sorry. I found this service, personalized wellness therapy. Upload journal entries, they create affirmations for spa visits. I paid $200, gave them your password. I thought it would help. Show me. Website's gone. Vanished completely. Payment to Meridian Wellness Solutions, LLC. No registration, no address, untraceable. Emma meant well, but whoever got my journal didn't make affirmations. They made something that whispered my secrets and left bruises on skin in a locked room where cameras prove I was alone. Physical proof versus digital evidence. Both real, both impossible. The bruises are what gets me. You can't reach your own shoulder blades like that. Either someone was in that room and the footage is tampered with, or I don't even want to think about the alternative. This happened to my sister at a spa. The therapist knew things about her miscarriage. Later found out the spa sold client intake forms to marketing companies. Could your retreat have sold your personal info? But that doesn't explain the physical evidence. The bruises in impossible locations, the massage oil that isn't even used at that retreat. Information selling is one thing, but this goes way beyond data breach territory. Some questions don't have answers. Some doors stay locked. Local police reviewed every second of that footage with me. Their conclusion? No one else entered or exited that locked room during those 45 minutes. No tampering detected, no missing frames, no technical anomalies. The bruises lasted 2 weeks. I documented them, photos from every angle, measurements, a doctor's examination. Hand-shaped, 4 fingers and a thumb pressed deep into muscle on each shoulder blade. My doctor tried to recreate the position. Physically impossible to reach that angle and apply that pressure without a second person's hands. The massage oil smell faded from my clothes but lingered on my skin for days. Eucalyptus and something else I still can't identify. I deleted the therapy app, changed every password, cut all contact with Emma despite her tearful voicemails apologizing, explaining she truly thought she was helping, begging me to understand. Maybe she did mean well. But the wellness service she trusted has vanished completely. No trace, no records, payment to a shell company that never existed. I'm back in my apartment now, back to freelance work, tight deadlines, the familiar chaos, living alone like before. Except some nights I wake to the sensation of cold hands on my shoulders, that same professional pressure, those same precise movements I felt on that massage table. I never told the therapist those things. No one was in that room. But something new, something touched me. As a licensed massage therapist, this is horrifying. No legitimate professional would ever access client journals or whisper personal information during a session. This is abuse. Report this to your state's massage therapy board. Leave your theories in the comments. On to the next one. I received a letter about survivor benefits from a husband I never married. 26, female. The envelope sat on her kitchen counter for 2 days before she opened it. I work as a museum archivist. I live alone in a small apartment, and I have never been married. That's why the letter from the Social Security Administration made absolutely no sense. It arrived last Monday. Official letterhead, my full legal name spelled correctly. The letter informed me that I was eligible for survivor benefits following the death of my husband 3 months ago. They listed his full name, Dmitry Volkov. I had never heard that name in my life. I thought it was a scam at first, but the SSA phone number checked out. When I called them Tuesday morning, the agent pulled up my file and confirmed, yes, there was a marriage certificate on record from 5 years ago. My name, my signature, everything legal and filed with the state. I told her there had to be a mistake. I've never been married. I've never even had a serious boyfriend. She was sympathetic, but insisted their records showed a valid marriage. She offered to send me a copy of the certificate. I hung up and immediately searched Dmitry Volkov online. His obituary came up right away. 42 years old, immigrated from Ukraine in 2019, died in a car accident in March. The photo showed a man I had absolutely no memory of ever meeting. I called the SSA back and requested the full certificate. It arrived yesterday. When she opened the manila envelope, her hands were shaking. The marriage certificate looked completely legitimate. There was my signature at the bottom. It matched my handwriting exactly. The date? August 2021. I would have been 21 years old, but it was the wedding photos that made me feel like I was losing my mind. 4 printed photos were paper-clipped to the certificate. They showed me in my mother's garden. I recognized the rose bushes and the old wooden arbor. I was wearing a white sundress I definitely owned back then. There was a man standing next to me who must have been Dmitry, plus a photographer and 2 witnesses I didn't recognize. And there I was, unmistakably me. But my expression was completely blank. Not happy, not sad, just vacant. My eyes looked glassy and unfocused. I looked sedated. I stared at those photos for over an hour, trying to force myself to remember. Nothing came, just fog. Then I checked the date again, August 2021. I pulled out my old planner and felt my stomach drop. That was the exact 3-month period when I was hospitalized for psychiatric treatment. Severe depression. My mother had me committed. Most of my memories from that time are fragmented because of the medication. I was married during my psychiatric hospitalization, and I have absolutely no memory of it happening. She hadn't thought about that summer in years. I was 21 when my mother Rachel had me committed. Second year of college, deep depressive episode that came out of nowhere. At least that's how I remember it. I stopped going to classes, stopped eating properly, couldn't get out of bed most days. My mother drove up from her place 2 hours away and took me to a psychiatric facility. I remember signing admission papers in a fog. The first week is almost completely blank. They had me on heavy medication that left me barely functional. There was group therapy I can barely recall, a psychiatrist who asked questions I couldn't focus on, meals I don't remember eating. What I do remember clearly is my mother visiting almost every day. She would sit beside my bed and talk about insurance, about paperwork, about how she was handling everything so I didn't have to worry. She brought documents for me to sign, consent forms for treatment, insurance claims, things like that. At least that's what she told me they were. I was so medicated I could barely read what I was signing. I trusted her completely. She was my mother. She was taking care of me. I stayed there for 3 months before they finally let me go home. The depression lifted slowly with outpatient therapy and different medication. I went back to school that fall, graduated eventually, rebuilt my life. My mother and I grew distant over the years. We had a falling out about 2 years ago and haven't spoken since. But I never questioned what happened during that hospitalization, until now. The journals were in a box at the back of her closet. I dug out my old notebooks from 2021 last night. I've always kept journals, even during the worst times. The entries from that summer are sporadic and barely legible. My handwriting shaky, sentences trailing off mid-thought. June and July have some entries. Generic things about how I was feeling, complaints about the medication making everything fuzzy. But August, the month the marriage certificate is dated, has only 3 entries total, and none of them mention anything about a wedding or a man named Dimitri. There are gaps, though. Whole weeks with nothing written. Days I apparently lived through but have no record of. I also found photos from that period that my mother must have given me later. Pictures of me in the facility's courtyard, in the common room, sitting in my room staring at nothing. In every single one, I look completely hollowed out. My eyes are empty. I look like I'm not even really there. The obituary said Dimitri immigrated from Ukraine in 2019 and died in a car accident 3 months ago. He would have needed a green card. The timing makes horrible sense. And then I realized something that made my blood run cold. During a psychiatric commitment, especially one that lasts months, the family member who signed you in can be granted legal guardianship. My mother would have had complete legal authority over me. She could have signed anything on my behalf, including a marriage license. Nina picked up on the 3rd ring. I called my old college roommate Nina this morning. When I told her about the marriage certificate and photos, she went quiet. Then she said, "Your mom barely let me visit you during that hospitalization. I tried multiple times, and the staff would say you weren't allowed visitors, your mother's orders. The one time I got in, you were so out of it you could barely speak." Nina never met any boyfriend, never heard me mention anyone named Dimitri, and she remembers thinking it was strange how isolated my mother kept me. I tried calling Rachel after that. Haven't spoken to her in 2 years. The phone rang and rang. No answer, no callback. Then I looked at the witness signatures on the marriage certificate. 2 names I didn't recognize. The first one turned up nothing online, but the second brought up an immigration lawyer whose license was suspended in 2022 for fraudulent documentation. An immigration lawyer witnessed my wedding to a man who needed a green card. The FOIA request form felt heavy in her hands. I filed a FOIA request yesterday for my complete medical records from the psychiatric facility. I need to see what my mother told them when she had me committed. Because here's what haunts me. Yes, I was depressed that spring. But was I really sick enough for 3 months inpatient? Or did my mother exaggerate my symptoms to get me locked away long enough to arrange this marriage? The timing is too convenient. Dmitry needed a green card. My mother has always had money problems, and there I was, her vulnerable daughter who she had complete legal authority over, heavily medicated. I keep looking at those wedding photos, my blank expression, standing like a puppet while strangers surround me in my mother's garden. I might never prove what happened, but I have to try. You need to contact a lawyer who specializes in both family law and elder abuse immediately. What your mother did is likely criminal fraud, and if she had you committed under false pretenses, that's a whole other felony. Document everything. Wait, so Social Security has you on file as his legal widow? Does that mean you're entitled to the benefits? This is so bizarre and horrifying I can barely process it. Do you remember anything from that time period? Even small flashes? Sometimes memories come back when you see documentation or photos. I remember being in the hospital, yes, but those 3 months are like watching through frosted glass. I remember group therapy, bland food, Nina visiting once. Nothing about any ceremony. When I look at those wedding photos, my face is completely blank. I'm there, but nobody's home. Most disturbing thing I've ever seen. She called back 2 days later. My mother confessed she had me committed to arrange the marriage. Rachel finally returned my voicemail this morning. I recorded the call. She admitted everything. Dmitry Volkov paid her $15,000 to marry me for his green card. My mother arranged the entire psychiatric commitment to make it happen. According to her, I really was depressed that spring, but the doctors at the first consultation recommended outpatient therapy and medication. Rachel insisted I needed inpatient care. She pushed for a 72-hour psychiatric hold, then got it extended by exaggerating my symptoms to the evaluating psychiatrist. Once she had temporary guardianship, she kept me heavily medicated for weeks. She said the wedding happened in the facility's garden during visiting hours. She brought Dmitry, the witnesses, and an officiant who performed a civil ceremony while I was so drugged I could barely stand. She actually said these words, "You were going to forget anyway with all that medication, and I needed the money. You don't understand how bad things were financially." When I asked how she could do that to her own daughter, she said I was being dramatic, that it didn't hurt me, that the marriage was just paperwork, that Dmitry was a nice man who just needed help with immigration. I called her a monster. She hung up on me. The comments filled with rage. This happened to my cousin, but with a different setup. Someone used her identity for a green card marriage while she was in rehab. It took 3 years to unravel, and she nearly got deported even though she was born here. Get ahead of this now. Former archivist here. Request your complete medical file from that hospitalization immediately, along with any commitment paperwork. If your mother had temporary guardianship, the court should have records. You need to build a timeline of what was legally filed and when. If this was a fraudulent marriage for immigration purposes, you could potentially be on the hook legally even if you were coerced. The government doesn't always care about the circumstances. Please protect yourself. This is exactly what I was thinking. Even if OP proves she was medicated and incapacitated, if the marriage was used for immigration fraud, she could still face consequences. This is so much worse than just identity theft. The medical records arrived in a thick envelope. The FOIA request came through last week. 300 pages of medical documentation from my hospitalization. The intake notes tell a very different story than what Rachel described. My initial evaluation recommended outpatient treatment, standard therapy, and medication management. The evaluating psychiatrist wrote that I was experiencing moderate depression, but was not a danger to myself or others. But Rachel insisted I needed inpatient care. She specifically requested a different doctor for a second opinion, Dr. Michael Kowalski. That doctor signed the commitment papers and recommended extended stay. I looked him up. Dr. Kowalski's medical license was permanently revoked in 2023 for insurance fraud and falsifying patient records in multiple cases. I've retained 2 attorneys now. One is filing to annul the marriage on grounds of fraud and lack of consent. The other is building a medical malpractice case against both the facility and Rachel for unlawful commitment and guardianship abuse. But there's a complication that makes this even messier. Dmitry's family wanted their cut. 3 days ago, I received a letter from an attorney representing Dmitry Volkov's family. Apparently, there's a $200,000 life insurance policy naming me as beneficiary. They're demanding I claim the money and threatening to sue me if I contest the marriage's validity because that would invalidate their own derivative claims. My lawyer thinks they were complicit in the immigration fraud from the beginning. They may have helped pay Rachel. The whole thing is a nightmare of legal complications. I could be entitled to money from a marriage I never consented to with a man I never knew. Or I could face federal immigration fraud charges if the government decides to investigate. I've blocked Rachel's number permanently. Nina has been staying with me most nights because I still have panic attacks when I look at those wedding photos. I don't know how this ends, but I know I'll never speak to my mother again. I'm so sorry. The violation of trust from a parent is devastating enough, but to have gaps in your own memory and find out they were real events you lived through? I can't imagine how disorienting that must feel. The fact that she used your mental health crisis as an opportunity to exploit you is beyond unforgivable. Even if she was desperate about money, she essentially sold you. I'm furious on your behalf. This story haunts me. Your own mother should protect you, not sell your identity while you're at your most vulnerable. On to the next one. My small town reserves a chair for my missing grandmother at every festival, and everyone gives me the same scripted response about it. I, 28 female, moved back to my hometown 3 months ago after my mother passed away. I'm a graphic designer and work remotely, so I figured I could handle my mother's estate while keeping my job. I grew up here but left at 13, and this was my first time attending the annual Harvest Festival in 15 years. The festival itself was exactly how I remembered. The same red and white striped tents, the same vendors selling homemade jam and kettle corn, even the same folk band playing on the makeshift stage. But there was something I hadn't noticed as a kid, or maybe it wasn't there back then. In the center of the town square, someone had set up rows of folding chairs facing the stage. Most were filled with families and elderly couples, but one chair in the front row sat conspicuously empty. It had a small brass nameplate attached to the back. Eleanor Hartwell. Eleanor Hartwell was my grandmother. She disappeared without a trace in 1976, 50 years ago this October. I never knew her. She vanished 22 years before I was born. My mother rarely spoke about it, and when she did, her voice would go flat and distant. I approached Mrs. Chin, who was selling apple cider from a booth nearby. "Excuse me, why is there a reserved seat for my grandmother?" She looked at me with that small-town warmth I'd almost forgotten, smiled, and said in a completely monotone voice, "We keep her seat warm until she comes home." She had to be sure. The way she said it was like reading from a script. No emotion, no inflection, just those exact words delivered like a recorded message. I thought maybe it was just Mrs. Chin being awkward about a sensitive subject, so I asked the festival organizer, a man in his 60s named Jim Patterson. Same flat tone, same exact phrase. "We keep her seat warm until she comes home." Then I asked the teenage girl working the face painting booth. She couldn't have been more than 17. Same words, same cadence, same empty delivery. I spent the next hour moving through the festival, asking everyone I could find, the hardware store owner, the mailman, a young mother I recognized from the grocery store. Different ages, different backgrounds, people who'd lived here their whole lives, and newcomers who'd only been in town a few years. Every single person said the exact same thing, word for word, in that identical flat tone. "We keep her seat warm until she comes home." The records were older than she expected. I went to the town library the next morning. The librarian, a woman named Ms. Winters, who I vaguely remembered from childhood, helped me access the microfiche archives without any fuss. She even pulled the right year for me before I asked, as if she knew exactly what I was looking for. Eleanor Hartwell disappeared on October 12, 1976. She was 28 years old. The initial missing persons report described her as last seen leaving the Harvest Festival at approximately 9 p.m. 3 witnesses placed her near the town square, by the folding chairs. After that, nothing. No leads, no suspects, no body. The case went cold within 6 weeks. 28. The same age I am now. I called Sarah that afternoon. We'd been close as kids before I moved away, and she was one of the few people from town I'd stayed in contact with over the years. When I told her about the festival, about the chair, about the scripted responses, there was a long silence on the line. "Sarah?" "It's just a tradition," she said finally. Her voice sounded strained, wrong somehow. "The town honors people who go missing. It's sweet, really." "Sarah, everyone said the exact same words, in the exact same tone. Even teenagers who weren't alive when Eleanor disappeared." "I have to go." She hung up before I could say anything else. When I tried calling back, she didn't answer. She had to be certain. Over the next 2 days, I tested it systematically. I asked at different times, morning, afternoon, evening. I asked in different ways. Casual questions at the grocery store, direct confrontations at the post office, hypothetical scenarios at the hardware store. Mr. Palmer, who runs Palmer's Hardware, delivered the phrase at 9 a.m. on Tuesday while I was buying light bulbs. I'd asked him if he remembered my grandmother. The words came out of him like a recording. "We keep her seat warm until she comes home." The mailman, Derek, said it at 2 p.m. on Wednesday when I asked about grandmother's last known address. Ms. Winters at the library, the same woman who'd helped me research Eleanor's disappearance, said it Thursday evening when I returned to ask follow-up questions. Same words, same flat affect. Same rhythm and cadence, like a memorized prayer. It didn't matter their age, their background, whether they'd lived here their whole lives or moved in last year. They all knew the script perfectly. I spent Friday searching my mother's house. She'd left everything to me, but I hadn't gone through most of it yet. The grief was still too fresh. The attic was full of boxes I'd been avoiding. Old photo albums, my childhood drawings, her wedding dress still in its garment bag. In the far corner, behind a stack of Christmas decorations that hadn't been touched in years, I found a wooden box I'd never seen before. It was locked with a rusted padlock, and scratched into the lid in faded letters was a single word: Eleanor. The lock broke easily. I pried the padlock off with a screwdriver. Inside the box were dozens of festival programs, the paper kind they hand out at the entrance. The oldest was dated 1952. I spread them across my mother's kitchen table. Every program had a page titled "Honoring Our Missing." Each listed a name, a photo if available, and the year they disappeared. The name changed every few years. 1952 to 1958, Catherine Mills. 1959 to 1965, Judith Werner. 1966 to 1972, Margaret Price. 1973 to 1979, Eleanor Hartwell. 1980 to 1986, Diane Foster. The list continued through the decades. Beneath the programs were yellowed newspaper clippings reporting missing persons cases, all from this town, all women who vanished without a trace during the Harvest Festival. I was studying the pattern when my front door opened. Nobody in this town locks their doors, but I wasn't expecting visitors. Sarah stood in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes were red, her hands shaking, her voice cracked. "You need to leave," Sarah said. "Right now. Pack your things and go." "Sarah, what is this? All these women disappeared during the festival. When did Eleanor's chair—" "I tried to leave 2 years ago." The words tumbled out like a confession. "Made it 40 miles on the highway before I felt this pull, like a rope around my chest, dragging me back. I fought it for an hour, but it got stronger. My hands turned the wheel on their own." She was crying, mascara streaking her face. "I drove straight back and don't even remember most of it. When I parked at home, the feeling stopped, like flipping a switch." I looked at the programs again, counting years between name changes. 7 years. Every 7 years, a new name. "When does the reserve seat change?" I asked. Sarah went white. "This October." The scripted responses are the biggest red flag here. That's not normal small-town quirky. That's coordinated. How many people gave you the exact same phrase? At least 15 different people. The grocery store clerk, the librarian, the woman who used to babysit me, the postal worker, even the teenagers working at the gas station. Same exact words, same flat affect. What really got me was when I asked the librarian to repeat it, she just started over from the beginning, like pressing play on a recording. This is giving me serious Wicker Man vibes. Small, isolated communities sometimes develop rituals that outsiders would find disturbing. Have you checked if there are any missing persons reports from your town in 7-year intervals? I grew up in a small town, and we definitely had weird traditions that would seem creepy to outsiders but were harmless. That said, the fact that your friend is warning you and the 7-year pattern with disappearances is concerning enough that you should take precautions. The box had a false bottom. I sat in my grandmother's chair at the festival. I spent yesterday cross-referencing the festival programs with missing persons records from the county archives. The pattern was undeniable. Every woman who had a reserved chair disappeared at exactly age 28. Catherine Mills, age 28, October 1958. Judith Werner, age 28, October 1965. Margaret Price, age 28, October 1972. Eleanor Hartwell, my grandmother, age 28, October 1976. Diane Foster, age 28, October 1983. The pattern continues through Patricia Reeves, age 28, October 2019. 7 years between each disappearance. Exactly 7 years, like clockwork. This October marks the 7th anniversary since Patricia's nameplate went up. The wooden box had a false bottom that I discovered when it tipped over. My mother's diary was hidden in the compartment, leather-bound and locked with a brass clasp I snapped open. Most entries were mundane: grocery lists, work schedules, household reminders. But the entry from 3 months ago, dated exactly 7 days before her fatal heart attack, made my stomach drop. Eleanor's turn again. 2026. Full circle. She'll come home. Below those words, my mother had circled my full name 3 times in red pen, each circle darker than the last. I turned 28 in March. My mother died in February of sudden heart failure with no prior symptoms. Her will required me to stay in town 6 months to claim inheritance. The rental house became available exactly when I needed it. Mrs. Chen handed me keys without asking for references, employment history, or deposit. Every piece was arranged. The death that seemed natural. The clause that kept me here. The house ready on schedule. I wasn't invited to settle an estate. I was summoned. Every detail she'd uncovered pointed to one inescapable truth. She'd been marked from the moment she turned 28. My grandmother lives in a town that does something similar with their Founders' Day celebration. They have a remembrance chair, but it's for all the founders collectively, not one specific person. The fact that yours changes names is really unsettling. Do not attend that festival. I don't care if it seems paranoid. Trust your gut. Pack a bag and get someone from outside town to pick you up. Seconding this, the 7-year cycle, the age 28 pattern, your mother's death right before this year's festival. None of that is coincidence. Get out while you still can. 3 days until the festival. The night before the festival, she packed everything she could carry. I threw clothes into my suitcase at 10 p.m., hands shaking so badly I could barely zip it closed. My car was parked on the street. I'd filled the tank that morning, checked the oil, made sure everything was ready. The engine turned over once, then died. I tried again. Nothing. I popped the hood and found my gas tank cap loose. Someone had poured sugar into the tank. I could see the white crystals coating the filler neck. I grabbed my bag and ran. The bus station was 6 blocks away, and the last bus to the city left at 11:15 p.m. My phone said 11:02. Mrs. Henderson sat behind the ticket counter. She'd taught my Sunday school class when I was 7. Her smile was too wide, stretching her face in ways that didn't look natural. "1 ticket to anywhere," I said, breathless. "Please, the next bus out." She tilted her head, and when she spoke, I heard that same flat affect I'd heard from everyone else. The script. "The festival honors those who come home." The fluorescent lights above me started flickering. Mrs. Henderson's smile never wavered. Everything went black. When she opened her eyes, 15 years had vanished. I woke in my childhood bedroom, the same bedroom I left when I was 13, that I haven't slept in for 15 years. Same floral wallpaper, same wooden dresser, same view of the town square through the window. I was wearing a white linen gown I'd never seen before. It was laid out perfectly on my body, my arms positioned at my sides, like I'd been arranged, like burial clothes. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains. I had no memory of getting here. No memory of leaving the bus station, walking through town, climbing the stairs, changing clothes. Nothing between Mrs. Henderson's smile and waking up here. Below my window, townspeople were setting up for the festival. The same red and white striped tents, the same vendors, the same rows of folding chairs facing the stage. I pressed my face against the glass, trying to see the front row. There was a fresh brass nameplate on one of the chairs. The sun's glare made it hard to read from this distance, but I didn't need to. I already knew whose name was written there. Can you access town records or newspaper archives? There might be information about what actually happened to your grandmother and the other women. On to the next one. I, 26 female, keep getting tagged in Facebook photos of strangers in my apartment while I'm at work. I need to write this down because I'm losing my mind, and my best friend Jenna thinks I'm being paranoid, but something is very wrong. I'm a dental hygienist. I work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday in a strip mall clinic 20 minutes from my apartment. I live alone, 1 bedroom, nothing fancy. I installed a Ring doorbell last year after someone kept leaving flyers in my door handle. 4 days ago, I got a Facebook notification. Someone tagged me in a photo. I didn't recognize the account, some random user named PartyLife247 or something like that. I clicked on it, expecting spam. It was a photo of people partying in my apartment. Not just similar to my apartment, my apartment. Same layout, same gray couch my mom helped me pick out at IKEA, same framed concert poster on the wall behind them, same everything. 5 or 6 people I'd never seen before, holding drinks, laughing, taken from the angle of my kitchen looking into my living room. I was at work when the photo was posted. Timestamp said 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I pull up my Ring app immediately. No alerts, no one entered or left. I race home during my lunch break the next day. Nothing. Not a single thing out of place. No Solo cups in the trash, no smell of alcohol. Floors still need vacuuming exactly like I left them. The second tag came 36 hours later. Different people, same apartment. This time someone photographed from my bedroom doorway looking toward my bed. My bed with the green quilt Jenna bought me for my birthday. The nightstand with my alarm clock showing 11:23 a.m. Another Tuesday, another workday. 8 strangers this time, some dancing, one guy doing a handstand against my wall. Ring doorbell, nothing. I checked the footage minute by minute. No one. I changed my locks. I called my landlord asking if maintenance had been in my unit. No. I checked every window, every lock, looked for hidden cameras, anything. My apartment was untouched, completely normal except for these impossible photos. Then, the third tag came this morning. I opened Facebook at my desk between patients and my hands went numb. 12 people this time. They were all looking directly at the camera, not just looking near it, looking at it. Every single person in the photo was smiling and waving at the exact spot where I hid my security camera inside a fake plant on my bookshelf. A camera I installed 2 days ago and told absolutely no one about. But here's the thing that made me physically sick. I checked my security camera footage. Nothing. No party, no people. My apartment was empty all morning. Those photos aren't from my apartment. Someone built an exact replica somewhere else. She downloaded every photo and began the forensic comparison. I spent 6 hours that night comparing the photos pixel by pixel. I took my own photos of my apartment from the same angles. The throw pillow on my couch, burgundy with gold trim, a Christmas gift from my mom 2 years ago. It's in the photos. Exact same pillow, same spot on the left cushion. The concert poster, Phoebe Bridgers' 2023 tour. I hung it exactly 18 inches from the ceiling. In the photos, it's 18 inches from the ceiling. The coffee mug on my counter, the chipped blue one from dental school. I'd left it there that morning before work, running late. In the photo posted at 11:23 a.m., it's in the exact same spot, handle facing the same direction. I called Jenna. She came over and I showed her everything. "Okay, that's definitely creepy," she said, scrolling through the photos. "But maybe someone just has similar taste? IKEA furniture all looks the same. Lots of people have that Bridgers poster." "The coffee mug, Jenna. The one I left out that morning." She paused. "Could be photoshopped? There's AI stuff now that can... Why would someone Photoshop strangers partying in a fake version of my apartment?" She didn't have an answer for that. The tags didn't stop. Fourth photo. Friday night, 9:34 p.m. A different group, maybe 10 people. Someone doing shots off my kitchen counter. The angle showed my refrigerator, including the dentist appointment reminder magnet and the takeout menu from the Thai place I'd stuck up there last week. Fifth photo. Sunday afternoon. Daytime party, bright sunlight through my windows. The same windows, same blinds, same view of the parking lot that couldn't be anywhere but my actual apartment. Sixth photo. Monday evening. Bathroom visible in the background. Door open just enough to see the mirror. The same crack in the bottom right corner that's been there since I moved in. I changed my locks again. Installed 2 more cameras. Started coming home during lunch every single day. I watched the Ring footage obsessively, scrubbing through every minute, looking for any sign someone had been inside. Nothing. Never anything. I stopped sleeping. I'd lie in bed staring at my bedroom door, listening for sounds that never came. I took photos of my apartment every morning before work and every evening when I got home, documenting the position of every object, trying to catch even the smallest change. The photos kept coming. Different people every time, always strangers, always partying in my replicated space. 7 tags, 8, 9. My actual apartment remained completely, impossibly untouched. The details were too specific to be coincidence. I sent the Party Life 247 account 20 messages over 2 days. Read receipts showed they'd seen every one. No response. So I examined the photos myself. Photo 11. My nightstand visible in the background. The book I'm reading, The Silent Patient, with my bookmark at page 147. I checked my actual copy. Page 147. The bookmark is a torn CVS receipt. In the photo, same torn CVS receipt. Photo 13. Bathroom counter visible. A prescription bottle, partially visible. I zoomed until the image pixelated. My name on the label, Sarah Chen. Anxiety medication prescribed 3 weeks ago. Photo 15. Full bathroom view. The mirror crack in the bottom right corner. Happened when I dropped my hairdryer 6 months ago. Never fixed it because my landlord wanted me to pay for a replacement. The exact crack pattern is in the photo. Every branch of the spiderweb identical. Someone had documented everything. No one could help. I called the police. The officer who came was polite, but useless. "So someone is throwing parties in a different location and tagging you?" he asked. "They've recreated my apartment. Everything." He scrolled through the photos. "Is anything missing? Any forced entry?" "No, but..." "Has anyone threatened you or asked for money?" "No." "Ma'am, no crime has been committed. The photos aren't taken in your actual residence. We can't arrest someone for decorating their apartment similar to yours." "It's not similar, it's exact. The crack in my mirror could be photoshopped, could be coincidence. Unless they've entered your apartment or threatened you, there's nothing we can do." He left. I sat on my couch for an hour. Jenna stayed over that night. I was too scared to sleep alone. We pushed my dresser against the bedroom door, and she slept on the floor next to my bed. Neither of us actually slept. The 16th photo was tagged at 3:47 a.m. while we were both lying there in the dark. Have you tried reverse image searching the photos? The metadata might tell you where they were actually taken. Also check if your iCloud or Google Photos was compromised. They might have access to your photos to recreate details. The fact that they knew where you hid the camera is the part that gets me. That means either they've been in your actual apartment before to scope it out, or they can see inside somehow. Check for hidden cameras in your place. I used to work in property management. Some buildings have identical units mirrored across floors. Could be same complex or sister building by same developer. Still doesn't explain why they're tagging you specifically, though. I checked every unit in my building that matches the layout. None of them were it. But I did find the place. Different complex across town, about 25 minutes away. When I got there, the door was unlocked. They'd copied everything, even the crack in my bathroom mirror and the water stain on my ceiling. They studied my apartment. I took photos before I left, but I wish I hadn't gone alone. The tags stopped. They stopped tagging me 3 days ago, and I'm terrified. It's been 3 days since the last photo. No tags, no notifications. The Party Life 247 account is still active, but completely silent. I keep checking every few hours, waiting for something that never comes. The silence is so much worse than the tags were. Yesterday, I got a direct message from a profile I didn't recognize. No profile picture, generic username, account created last week. The message had no text, just an address. 847 Riverside Drive, Unit 2A. I showed Jenna. She told me not to go. Sarah, this is exactly what they want. This is bait. But I had to see what this was. I drove there during my lunch break. Small apartment complex on the east side, older building with peeling white paint. Unit 2A was ground floor, corner unit. The door was unlocked. I went in. It was my apartment. Not similar, exact. Gray IKEA couch my mom helped me pick. Same spot. Phoebe Bridgers poster 18 inches from ceiling. Chipped blue mug from dental school on the counter. The bathroom mirror crack. Exact spiderweb pattern from when I dropped my hairdryer. Water stain on my ceiling. The silent patient on the nightstand. CVS receipt bookmark at page 147. Someone had studied my life, recreated everything. On the kitchen counter, a handwritten note in black marker. Unit 4B next. Unit 4B, my actual apartment number. I ran to my car and drove straight to the police station. They're sending officers to check the address today. But I can't go home to Unit 4B. Jenna is staying with me, but I can't go back alone. Not when they know exactly where I live, and that note is promising I'm next. The note wasn't a warning, it was a promise. This is going to sound crazy, but is there any chance you have an identical twin you don't know about? My cousin found out at 30 she was adopted and had a sister. Not saying that's it, but the similarity is unsettling. Get cameras inside your apartment pointing at all entry points, not just the door. Change your locks and the doorknob itself in case someone copied the mechanism. Consider staying with family until this is resolved. Adding to this, get a door security bar, the kind that braces against the floor. Even if someone has a key, they physically can't open it from outside. And OP, please don't stay there alone until you know what this is. She couldn't go home. The Party Life 247 account disappeared overnight. The police went to 847 Riverside Drive, Unit 2A the next morning. I met them there with Jenna. The apartment was empty, completely professionally cleaned. Every piece of furniture gone. The gray couch, the Phoebe Bridgers poster, my replicated nightstand and books, even the chipped blue mug. The bathroom mirror had been replaced, no crack. Water stain on the ceiling, painted over. The landlord said the unit had been rented month to month under a corporate lease, paid in full through cash drops in the building's payment box. The tenant gave 30 days notice 2 weeks ago. Everything was legal. He had no information about who actually lived there. The Party Life 247 Facebook account was deleted. Every photo, every tag, gone. I have screenshots, but they mean nothing. The police took a report, but said without the account or physical evidence, there was no case to investigate. I couldn't go back to Unit 4B. I broke my lease, paid the penalty, and moved in with my mom 2 hours away. Stayed there for 3 weeks, sleeping in my childhood bedroom. Then I found a new apartment across the city. Different building, different layout, different neighborhood. Fresh start. It's been 2 months. The silence followed her. I check my Facebook notifications compulsively, every hour, sometimes more. I've set alerts for any tags, any mentions of my name. I scrutinize every notification, every friend request, every group invite. Nothing. Complete silence. But I can't shake it. When I'm at work, I wonder if strangers are partying in a recreation of my new apartment. If someone has already documented my new gray couch from a different store, my new posters on different walls, my new coffee mugs. If somewhere across town another perfect replica is waiting. Sometimes I drive by random apartment buildings and wonder if one of the units contains my space. My life, recreated in exact detail for reasons I'll never understand. Jenna says I need therapy. My mom wants me to move back home permanently. But they don't understand. Moving didn't stop it before. Moving didn't erase what happened. Moving just means they know I'm scared. I keep waiting for a new tag, a new photo, a new address. The silence is somehow worse than the tags ever were, because now I don't know where they are or what they're planning. I just know they studied me once, watched me, copied every detail of my existence. What's stopping them from doing it again? OP, please tell me you filed a police report. Even if nothing was stolen, this is harassment and possibly stalking. Document every single tag, every message, everything. And our dental hygienist remains forever watchful, waiting for the next tag that may never come, on to the next one. I work nights at a nursing home. One of my patients keeps whispering the names of staff who haven't been hired yet. The night shift holds its secrets close. I'm a night nurse, 28, female, at Willowbrook Care Facility, a nursing home in the kind of small town where everyone knows everyone's business. I've been working the graveyard shift here for 3 years now, and I live alone in a studio apartment about 10 minutes from work. My nights are usually quiet, vital sign checks, medication rounds, helping patients to the bathroom, the occasional emergency. My coworker Jen handles the day shift, and we overlap during shift changes to brief each other on the residents. Most of my patients have dementia or Alzheimer's. You get used to the confusion, the repeated questions, the wandering at odd hours. Mrs. Chen is one of my long-term residents on the second floor. She's 87, advanced dementia, mostly nonverbal. But every few weeks, she'll have these lucid episodes where she looks right at you like she's completely present. Those moments of clarity never last long. About a month ago, I was doing my routine 2 a.m. bed check. Mrs. Chen was awake, which wasn't particularly unusual. But when I leaned in to adjust her blanket, she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Her eyes locked onto mine with a focus I hadn't seen in months. She whispered, "Sarah Thompson, 3rd floor." I gently pulled my hand back, told her everything was okay, that she should try to sleep. I figured it was just confused memories bubbling up. Maybe someone she knew years ago. Dementia patients often talk about people from their past like they're still around. 3 weeks later, our facility administrator was conducting interviews and giving tours. I was covering a partial day shift to help with staffing. A young woman walked past me in the hallway wearing a visitor badge. I glanced at it out of habit. Sarah Thompson, interviewing for a CNA position. On the 3rd floor. Something cold settled in her chest. I stood there for a good 10 seconds just staring after her. It had to be coincidence. Sarah Thompson is a common enough name, and 3rd floor, Mrs. Chen could have been mumbling about anything. An old memory, a dream, random words strung together by a deteriorating brain, but I couldn't shake the unease. That night, back on my regular shift, I pulled Mrs. Chen's chart and read through it more carefully than I ever had. She'd been a resident at Willowbrook since the late 1970s, almost 50 years in the same facility. Her family rarely visited anymore. I think there's a nephew somewhere out of state, but I'd never actually met him. I wanted to mention it to Jen during our next shift overlap, but I stopped myself. What would I even say? One of our dementia patients randomly said a name, and then someone with that exact name showed up weeks later. She'd think I was overworked. Hell, I was starting to think I was overworked. I tried to put it out of my mind. Told myself I was being ridiculous, reading patterns into random noise. Sarah Thompson started the following Monday. 3rd floor, just like Mrs. Chen had said. I kept telling myself it was coincidence. I needed it to be. She wanted desperately to believe it was nothing. I spent the next 2 weeks trying to convince myself I was being ridiculous. Sarah Thompson was a coincidence. Common name, common position. I was working too many night shifts, seeing patterns where there weren't any. Then, it happened again. I was changing Mrs. Chen's bedding around 3 a.m. when she reached out and touched my arm. Her eyes had that sharp, focused look again. "David Martinez," she whispered. "Maintenance. Ground floor." I wrote it down this time. Maybe part of me already knew. 6 days later, a man named David Martinez was hired as a maintenance worker. Ground floor. I started keeping a list in my phone, hidden in my notes app. I told myself I was documenting it to prove to myself when the pattern broke that I'd been imagining things. I called my younger sister Emma that weekend. We talk every few days, and I needed to tell someone. "So this patient at work," I started, trying to sound casual, "she's been saying these names, and then people with those exact names get hired." Emma was quiet for a second. "Like, she knows them from somewhere?" "No, that's the thing. She says them before they even apply, before we've ever heard of these people." "That's weird," Emma said slowly. "But I mean, maybe she overheard something? Or it's just a really weird coincidence?" I wanted to believe her. I really did. The third time left no room for doubt. 2 weeks after that phone call with Emma, I was doing medication rounds, just past midnight. Mrs. Chen was sitting up in bed, wide awake, staring at the doorway like she'd been waiting for me. When I approached, she grabbed both my hands. Her grip was firm, deliberate. "Rebecca Foster," she said, each word crisp and clear. "Physical therapist, 2nd floor. She starts on the 15th. The specificity was different this time. Not just a name and position, a full job title, floor assignment, and a start date. I didn't want to write it down. Writing it down felt like admitting something I wasn't ready to admit. But I did it anyway, right there in the hallway, hands shaking as I typed it into my phone. The 15th was 3 weeks away. On March 15th, Rebecca Foster started her first day as a physical therapist on the 2nd floor. I couldn't explain it away anymore. This wasn't coincidence or me being overworked. This was real, and it was impossible. That night after my shift, I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, just staring at the building. Mrs. Chen had been at Willowbrook for almost 50 years. What else did she know? I needed to understand what was happening. I needed to dig into her history, her file, everything we had on her. The file room held answers she wasn't sure she wanted. Mrs. Chen's file was thick. Admission, September 1974. Over 50 years at Willowbrook. Standard dementia progression, occasional lucid episodes, no family contact. Nothing explaining her ability. The next week she gave me 2 more names, both hired within 3 weeks, a receptionist and a dietary aide. I told Jen during Thursday's shift overlap, break room, both exhausted. "Mrs. Chen keeps predicting new hires before they apply. 5 times now." Jen set down her coffee. "When's your next day off?" "I'm not making this, you're exhausted," she said gently. "Finding patterns in dementia talk. You need rest." Looking at her concerned face, I knew she'd never believe me. That night, something changed. Mrs. Chen started watching me differently, constantly, her eyes tracking me with awareness that didn't match her diagnosis. She recognized something in the nurse that no one else could see. Other staff walked past, she barely noticed, but when I appeared, her head would turn, watching me with this knowing look. Tuesday night, I passed the employee photo wall, decades of staff photos from the facility's opening, faded faces, outdated uniforms. Mrs. Chen sat in her wheelchair at the hall's end. I hadn't seen her. She beckoned with one crooked finger. I approached slowly. She gripped my sleeve, pulling me down. "Catherine Wright," she whispered clearly. "You remember Catherine." The name felt familiar. I looked back at the wall. 3rd row, black and white from 1983. Young woman, nursing uniform, dark hair, standing before this building. Nameplate, Catherine Wright, RN, 43 years ago. I turned to Mrs. Chen. Her eyes held mine with terrifying lucidity. Something was deeply wrong. My grandmother had dementia and would sometimes say things that seemed prophetic, but it was always just fragments of old memories reassembling. "Are you sure Mrs. Chen isn't just repeating names she heard decades ago? Document everything and consider reporting this to your supervisor. If there's something wrong with patient placement or record keeping, it needs to be addressed through proper channels." Have you looked into the facility's history? Sometimes these old buildings have weird patterns. I'd be checking how long it's been in operation and if there's been high staff turnover. I went down to the basement archives yesterday after my shift. Willowbrook opened in 1974. The employee records go back that far, and the turnover rate is actually weirdly low. People work here for decades or they leave within the first month. There's no middle ground. I found something else too, but I'm still trying to make sense of it. The basement held more than old files. After seeing Mrs. Chin whisper Catherine Wright's name, a nurse from 43 years ago, I knew I had to dig deeper. The basement archives were the only place with records going back that far. I went down after my shift ended Friday morning. Dusty concrete room, fluorescent lights flickering, metal shelving units packed with banker boxes. Employee records dating back to 1974 when Willowbrook first opened. I started pulling random boxes. Personnel files, hiring paperwork, termination records. That's when I saw it. Sarah Thompson, dietary aide, hired March 1985. Sarah Thompson, dietary aide, hired March 2025. 40 years apart. Exact same position. I grabbed another box. David Martinez, maintenance, hired June 1983. David Martinez, maintenance, hired June 2023. My hands were shaking as I pulled more files. The pattern was everywhere. Same names, same positions, cycling every 40 years like some kind of terrible schedule. Rebecca Foster, Catherine Wright, dozens of others. Staff weren't being hired, they were being replaced, by themselves. Then she found the file with her own name on it. I found my resignation letter in the basement archives. I found my employee record tonight. My full name filed alphabetically, dated April 1987. Physical description matches mine exactly. Height, weight, hair color. Age, 28. Position, night shift registered nurse, Willowbrook Care Facility. Clipped to the front was a resignation letter, typed on yellowed paper, standard 2-week notice format. The signature line at the bottom, blank, never signed. Attached to it, a sticky note in faded administrator handwriting. Employee decided to stay, 5/15/87. I'm holding this letter right now. It's dated May 1987. I wasn't born until 11 years later. I kept searching, found another file deeper in the archives. 1947, same name, same age, same position. Another resignation letter, unsigned. Same note about deciding to stay. I don't know what this place is. I don't know what I am. But Mrs. Chen has been at Willowbrook since 1974, watching this cycle repeat for over 50 years. She knows. She remembers everything. And I think she's been trying to warn me from the beginning. I worked in a nursing home for 6 years, and we had a patient who would predict deaths on the ward. Never got it wrong once. Some people just know things. Be careful. This is genuinely terrifying. Please tell me you've documented the dates she said each name and when they actually showed up. That would be impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Even with documentation, what would she do with it? Go to admin and say a dementia patient is psychic? They'd just suggest she take some time off for stress. This whole situation is a nightmare with no clear next step. The archives went deeper than she thought. I went back down after I found the first 2 resignation letters. Had to know how far back it went. 1987, 1947. I kept pulling boxes, going backwards through the decades. 1907. Another file. Same name, same handwriting. Resignation letter dated June 1907. Unsigned. Note. Employee decided to stay. 6/22/07. Every 40 years. Like clockwork. Staff don't quit Willowbrook. They try. They write the letters, type them, print them, but they never sign. They never leave. The pattern doesn't just include me. Sarah Thompson has a file from 1985. David Martinez from 1983. Rebecca Foster from 1943. Every single name Mrs. Chen whispered exists in these archives, cycling through the same positions, the same floors, over and over. We're not being hired. We're being returned. I called Emma this morning, told her I was taking a few days off, coming to visit. She said that sounded great. I'm typing this in my car right now, resignation letter printed and ready to sign in the passenger seat. But I know what happens when I try to sign it. I've done this before. multiple times. I just don't remember. I needed to see Mrs. Chen one more time, the only witness to every cycle. I went back inside, found Mrs. Chen in her room, sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open, waiting for me. When I walked in, she tracked me with perfect clarity. No confusion, no dementia fog, just recognition. I sat in the chair beside her bed. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. Then she reached out, took both my hands in hers. Her grip was steady, deliberate. She leaned forward and whispered my full name, first, middle, last, each syllable clear and certain. Then she added, tomorrow. Not a prediction, a reminder. Tomorrow, I'll walk back through those doors for my shift. Tomorrow, I'll file the unsigned resignation letter in the basement with all the others. Tomorrow, I'll forget, just like I did in 1987, 1947, 1907, and however many times before that. Mrs. Chen has been a patient here since 1974. She's watched dozens of cycles. She's the only one who remembers because she never tries to leave. Her eyes held mine. I saw pity there, and understanding, and an apology she couldn't speak. I'm posting this before my shift starts tomorrow. Maybe some part of me will remember. Maybe next time, one of us will finally sign the letter. But I don't think we will. The fact that she's giving you full names before they apply is what gets me. Not just Sarah, but Sarah Thompson. That's not a lucky guess. And that's the last story for today.